Hey, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Welcome back to another episode of Honest Conversations with Mo, the Mo Love Podcast. Been a while as usual. But hope everybody's doing well out there. Hope everybody's safe, especially in the western part of North Carolina and the southeast from the hurricane that hit last week, Hurricane Helen. As well as I think Hurricane Milton that's around the corner as well. So hope everybody's doing well and is safe and sound. And kind of want to just go, of course, as always, kind of want to get right into the episode and want to start off with this episode and talking about the concept of tone. Tone in the sense of kind of not only how do we talk to others, but how we want to be talked to as well. And I think tone is a very interesting word in the sense that it's something that can often be, misinterpreted, someone's tone, someone's, the volume in which, they're speaking with and looking to connect with others on that can often be misinterpreted. And I think when it comes to something like how we utilize our tone and how we talk to people, it also is a manner of the words we're using to deliver that message as well. And I think also something that can also be misinterpreted is how tone isn't just in what we say, it can be also in the things we do as well. Are you effectively communicating how you want to be heard through the things you're doing? Are you effectively communicating how you want to be seen through your body language? And as someone whose emotions can often be where I do wear, my heart on my sleeve, where my emotions can often be seen automatically, that it's instrumental for me to be mindful of the tone in which my body is kind of speaking or connecting with people. But then also at times too that we have to be okay with, you know, allowing ourselves to kind of feel things, allowing our tone to not have to, kind of be readjusted, realigned in that sense either, where you just gotta allow it to just speak for itself. And when it comes to, you know, what you're choosing to say and how you're choosing to receive a message from someone, it's important to pick up on that tone of how are they really saying it. They purposely, at times, some people, their tone can often be, demeaning or it can be belittling. But then it's also, someone's tone can be uplifting and, can be bright and engaging. I think it's important to how we connect with others' tones and how they're choosing to speak with us, not only verbally, but non-verbally as well. And when we speak on, especially when we speak on how we, kind of want to be talked to, it's important to also understand how do you, talk to yourself. What is the tone you're using when talking to yourself as well? And is it a certain volume you're talking to yourself at? Me myself, I'm very much, I speak very low at times. Some people say, sometimes I almost, whisper, when I'm talking. That's only because, I'm very, soft spoken in that sense. So even when, I'm speaking with myself, I'm, very soft spoken with myself as well. So when you're looking at that concept of tone and how not only we want to be heard, how do we choose to be heard, the volumes we're using. Because, I mean, don't get misunderstood. Of course, I can be loud. I think it's just natural that I am just, naturally soft spoken. We're also, when looking at that, looking at how we want to be spoken to, how are we speaking to ourselves, really be mindful of the tone that you're using for yourself and the people around you are using towards you as well, because it's a real indicator of kind of not only how are they choosing to connect with you and how they truly value kind of that relationship with you, but also is is it brief, is it long-winded, because tone can be so broad. Like I said, it could be, from body language, as someone giving you, whether it be, mixed signals or if it be direct signals at the same time as well, that, you got to be able to pick up on the different tone that somebody's body's reading. And then it's also important to understand when it comes to that part of, the body language part of tone is how are we choosing to, read someone's energy, read someone, how are they choosing to convey themselves in that moment without even saying anything. And I think it's vital for us to also be aware of that. And from there, next, I kind of want to get into, sounds that connect. And I want to say sounds that connect, whether it's, turning on a game because that's what allows you, to block out the world, or, the different music you listen to, whether it's, the sound of, birds chirping when walking in the park. It's important to be mindful of how are you kind of turning that on and off. What are you really paying attention to? What sounds are you really tapping into? And when you're having a conversation with someone, what sounds are connecting? What part of the conversation are you really listening to? If you're being honest and you're not listening, to the whole conversation, but what parts and pieces are you actually listening to? And what parts are you catching that connect with you because, you feel like they connect with you and relate to you? So just for myself, when it comes to something such as music, I'm really big, into R&B and hip hop. Because when it comes to R&B, I would say like predominantly R&B I listen to throughout majority of the time because I'm a sap, I'm a lover, all that stuff. But in the sense of, just kind of the joy I look to, find in life is, that love, that positive energy that's, often conveyed in R&B, and even, the positive messaging, with, of course, certain artists, of course, within, hip hop as well. I will say overall, just the sounds I like to tap into as far as musical is, very eclectic, like country, pop, of course, which pop is just obviously a short form of just the overall word popular music, which has always been funny to me, but we signify it as pop. But pop as well, alternative R&B, alternative hip hop, indie rock, so I just love, different sounds, and kind of those that, I connect with. So it's important to understand, the sounds that you connect with, and also within those sounds, understand, what messaging, you most align with, because sometimes, those sounds can be impactful in, our day to day and our moods, and how that can sway our feelings and our moods, even if we don't even realize it. That, a song, like for myself, I love listening to Rod Wave. Sometimes, his messaging, some people say, can be a bit sad or a bit, a Debbie Downer almost in a sense. But, I connect with it because, it's, I can kind of relate to it, not necessarily maybe like the lifestyle or, the things of that nature, but just being able to connect with, the overall sound, kind of what he's relating to, whether, certain moments, within life. And that's overall with, all the artists that I enjoy, that the sounds that connect, and just sounds overall that connect, are the sounds that kind of, define, kind of my life in that sense, because the sounds that connect are the sounds that define your life. And I think it's mindful to be aware of what sounds are you connecting to the sounds that truly connect to you? Are you connecting to sounds just because, you want to listen and you want to, just, get a glimpse of it, but not understanding that it could, completely alter you, So I think it's important to be mindful of the sounds we're tuning into. As I said, it doesn't have to necessarily just be, musically, it could be, as I said, the ocean waves, it could be, when the thunder is, pattering, on your windowsill, or rain pattern on your windowsill, or, thunder, during a storm. So I think it's important to be mindful of the sounds that we connect to and how that allows us to feel in those different moments, and being able to, connect and engage with ourselves, really being true to ourselves, because we're truly connecting to the sounds that connect with us, because we're, there's only, silence and, sound, because when you're not really listening for that thing that maybe we want to hear, is always going to be silence. So sound only appears when, it is what connects with us. And I think it's important to be vitally aware of, hey, what is it that I connect to? So yeah, and then the next topic I want to get into, and it's been, I think I want to follow up on this because it's been a while, obviously, since the whole kind of beef happened, and I want to get into the big three of Cole, Drake, and Kendrick, in terms of how, I think I spoke on it at the time when the beef was initially occurring, how our views on these individual artists would shift based off of the end result of the overall beef, or kind of what transpired early on, that was occurring, and I think that knowing that the Kendrick and Drake beef was most definitely the highlight of 2024. It's been interesting to know, especially of late, the recent songs that Cole has dropped, or been featured on. He's doing this feature run again, which feels like, to me, the fall off's on the way. I don't know when he's going to give it to us. My guess is election week, that Friday of election week. Just because knowing back in, I think it was 2020, when he was, really kind of initially, well, he's been teasing the fall off for a while, but when he really kind of really focused on, kind of that to-do list he had, check off that he wanted to do, as far as, the feature run, the off season. It's a Boy, which we haven't gotten, which I think might have been um, the the Might Delete Later mixtape that we got, but I don't think if It's a Boy is that. But yeah, then, obviously we're going to get the fall off. So I think just getting back to, the feature run Cole's been on, with the T Grizzly feature. What was the two songs on Boz's album earlier this year, as well as Collard Greens, which with Daylight, which was incredible as well. I think overall Cole, though, has been, despite, the early inclinations that, he threw in the towel and about all that stuff, that honestly, to me, he's been, the best rapper of 2024 and the best rapper of this year. And obviously, incredible. So it's been interesting to see, and then knowing, obviously, coming from the end result of the beef, that Kendrick now, we know in 2025, in New Orleans, Super Bowl 59, he'll be, the halftime show, the first, solo hip hop performer to do the Super Bowl halftime show. And Drake's been kind of, finding what sticks of late, obviously, because, I mean, it's hard to come back from, you a fan, you a fan, you a fan. Yeah. So just knowing, OEO, all that, A minor, that whole, like, now us, anthem that still dominate. I think I would say it's been 10 straight weeks on Billboard, top 10. And I forget how long it was, number one, but it's hard to, come back from that and, really get your image back. I mean, 100 gigs, the couple of songs you dropped there. So it's going to be interesting, moving forward, how these artists continue to kind of push the narrative, knowing that, especially for me, they're the, they're the artists of, my generation. They're the big three, and, and it's just funny knowing, Drake and Cole doing, I think the, or, big as the what, big as the Super Bowl, and now Kendrick's doing the Super Bowl. So it's always interesting, and to still know, like, how their music continues to shift moving forward. Where I think Kendrick, right after, the Super Bowl announcement, dropped, I forget the name of the track, but like Leaving the Party or No More Parties. No, not No More Parties at LA. But it was like, oh, The Party Must Die. And, understanding that, and really tapping back into his bag and talking about the culture and the industry. So it's been interesting, and it's going to be it's going to continue to be interesting to see how these artists continue to evolve. And even for me, I think the reason why I love these three artists because they give me insight into myself. Where like for Cole, for me, has always been Cole's been my out of the top three has been my number one. But knowing that Cole for me represents like that, not only that dreamer side, the side that's that's able to feel almost because Cole's relatability and being able to connect with his music and kind of his messaging overall, and where I was also that just really who I kind of grown up to be as I continue to grow with Cole's music, and seeing how he's evolved as an artist, but also how myself, I've evolved, in my own ways. And then Drake is definitely the womanizer side for me, as far as my own womanizer side, and the ways I connect to his music, and the romantic, in that sense as well, where the almost really just in terms of just my relationships with women, music, and kind of that. And then Kendrick is the inquisitive side, the trying to understand all of the world's wonders, but he still has different pockets of kind of that balance of the womanizer as well, but also that vulnerability and the relatability as well. And I think that's how all three artists connect for me. And also I had mentioned like um and I can probably do that for a bunch of artists that I enjoy, but for those three I would say Cole is kind of that relatable, that dreamer, kind of who I'm looking to become and continue to look to become. And Drake is getting my feelings bad, the womanizer, romance and relationships. And Kendrick is that inquisitive and wondering all about the world and how we're looking to kind of change the world at the same time too. And it's always interesting, as I said, kind of I touched on earlier, is how do those sounds connect. And for me, I can listen to all three of these artists' music, regardless of beef, whatever, whatever narratives, especially for the Drake and Kendrick beef, like, till something becomes true and factual. There's some other situations that we've become privy to of late that I'm not really gonna really dive deep into. But yeah, if it's something similar to something of that nature, based off the allegations that both artists made of each other, until it's been proven true, that's the artist that I connect with. And those are how I connect with those individual artists as well. And then from there, I want to get into the WNBA playoffs. WNBA playoffs, we had the semifinals. Sadly, I was incorrect. It seemed like the New York Liberty are continue to be the best team. They upset my Aces. Not necessarily upset. They beat my Aces. It was 3-1. Today, the three-peat is not happening despite the incredible season. Unanimous MVP for Asia Wilson. Just did not have enough this year. And, it's understandable with the difficulties that it takes to repeat as a champion 3 times in a row. And for her to have the incredible season she had, just knowing that it just wasn't enough. But she, of course, and the Aces will look to bounce back next year. But hats off to the New York Liberty, Breonna Stewart, John Coral Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, Betnaja. I always forget Betnaja last name. I can't remember, but Betnaja, and just that overall team, they had an incredible series, outside of maybe that game 3 where the Aces, Asia dominated. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see in the finals. And of course, they're waiting on the other side, the Connecticut Sun versus Minnesota Lynx. That series is at 1-1. The current score of that game I'm unaware of last time I checked though. The links were up. I want to say it was like 43-38 at the time. It is a close game. And that's been a good, incredible series, very gritty, you know, two, one great offense, one, incredible on the defensive end. Both actually have, great offenses and defenses just overall. So it's been a fun series to watch on that end. And hopefully, my Lynx pick, pans out to be true. I was hoping, Lynx and Aces, if that does change in it. But since I did have Lynx and Aces, I'm just going to go Lynx Liberty, and I'm going to go Lynx because I think, Fisa Collier, like I said, next year, since I was incorrect in where we can't utilize, Asia as, four-peat, four-time champ, four-peat or, four-time MVP. I am still going to push. Well, we still going to push that narrative for Asia, but we also going to push for next year MVP. Although she did deserve the Defensive Player of the Year, I think Asia still had the better defensive year. But now that it seems like, that you're not saying she deserves it because you said, you cited her and it was like, what is this? Like some music album, anyways. But now MVP next year, we're pushing that narrative. You push Asia for her fourth MVP as well. And then, battling it out. And it's going to be interesting once we get closer to it, but it's going to be interesting to see. I think they just announced the rules for the expansion team draft for the Golden State Valkyries. Where each of the 8 teams can only save 6 players. So it's gonna be interesting with the teams. As I said, once we get closer, we'll dive deeper into that. But as the teams only say those 6 players, what each franchise is gonna do, it's gonna be fun to see once we get closer to that. And then next, I want to get into NFL Week 4 and Week 5. Atlanta Falcons are giving me heart attacks, but they wouldn't. And last week, of course, we won, 58-yarder career against the New Orleans Saints, against the Aints. We beat them in Week 4, and then Thursday night. Man, I thought once Kirk threw that pick with like 140 something to go, I think it was Levante David, they got that pick. I thought it was wraps, and I thought that game was over. When early it was when Darnell Mooney dropped the touchdown or dropped the pass that would have, I think it was like 3rd and 10. Yeah, it was 3rd and 10, 3rd and something. Dropped the pass wide open. Defender had fallen down. If he catches that, he's walking into the end zone. So he drops the pass. Coop got blocked on his field goal, his 52-yard attempt. Then we come back defense. Shout out to Jesse Bates. When I tell you I need Jesse Bates in a Falcons uniform for life now, we need Jesse because Jesse punching the ball out of Bucky Irvin's hand and giving us another possession, which of course was squandered by the pick to Levante David. We got saved by a no face mask call. Then the Bucks got called for a holding, pushed them back to 2nd and 23, I want to say. And then, they obviously couldn't do anything on that 2nd down. That 3rd down, they run it. And then obviously punted back to us with a minute and some change. Kirko drives, as always, these last-minute drives to tie the game with 1 second left. Hits. Irving also almost scared me, too, with that catch. He was trying to run out of bounds. That was scary. And the clock was still running. It was like 30 seconds to drop down to like 19 when they had snapped it. And I was like, sheesh, did we have enough time? And then Kirk hits Drake on a quick slant inside. They run up to the line. Get at 1 second. Koo takes the overtime with it was a 47 initially. Delay game penalty. Pushed it back to 52. And yeah, took it to OT. Shout out to also Kadero Hodge, man. Play. And to step up like that when I think Drake had went down the possession before, or the play before he had went down, and Kadero Hodge steps up and takes it to the house, man. Quick little hitch, chugs off the defender and just outruns the Bucks, man. And I'm just like, I was just wild because games usually don't happen for my Falcons overall. But yeah, it's been fun to see, how we've been bouncing back. Easily could be 0-5, easily could be 5-0. But we'll take 3-2 right now. And as we continue to push through, starting to, gel and click as a team. It's gonna be fun, the rest of the season. Hope no more heart attacks. But I mean, as long as they come with victories, that's all that matters. And around the rest of the league, the Vikings are still, they're undefeated because I think they beat the Jets in London today. Lamar had an incredible game against the Bengals. I don't know what's going on with the Bengals. Struggling. The Browns are Deshaun Watson is no longer Deshaun Watson, so I think the Browns are figuring out what they're going to do. They're going to have a fire sale. Monte Adams, I obviously asked for a trade where he ends up. We would love to have him in Atlanta, add another weapon, but it's gonna be fun. I'm hoping he don't end up in New Orleans. Maybe he goes to Aaron Rodgers. Maybe he ends up in Buffalo, Baltimore. I think he does end up in NFC though. I think the Raiders will allow him to stay in the AFC. I think so. It's gonna be interesting what happens to Monte. Then who's another surprise that's still undefeated? I think they're undefeated. I think the Seahawks. I don't know if the Seahawks won today, but the Seahawks were undefeated coming into today. I think, or were they 3-1? I think they were 3-1, not defeated. They were 3-1 coming into today. They're having a surprisingly good season despite the coaching, you know, changes to the roster overall, the coaching change. And it's been a lot of surprise teams. Like I said, Sam Darnold right now. Let's not also forget about the Rook, Jaden Daniels, Allen Washington cooking. He got another win today. I think coming into this game, four straight games at 80% completion percentage, NFL record. So yeah, man, it's been an interesting season, surprise and shockers. Lions are still cooking. To even say the Commanders are the best team in NFC East is surprising when you easily, everybody would have thought it would be, either the Eagles or the Cowboys. So it's been interesting to even see that. In the AFC, who's been shocking? I want to say because the Jags fell off. I don't know what happened to Trevor Lawrence. He's falling off a cliff. Tua and his injuries has impacted the Dolphins. Buffalo's still cooking. Go Bills. It's been fun to see, Josh Allen still, despite, not really having a weapon truly, but cooking still offensively, despite them getting blown out last week by the Ravens. In week 4. But yeah, man, the NFL has been rocking and rolling, and the college landscape. Oh man, we got upsets galore. Wow, it was a wild weekend in college football. But yeah, just overall, man. Shout out Kirko on Matt Ryan's night. Matt Ryan, Ring of Honor night. He set Matt Ryan, broke Matt Ryan's franchise record of 503 passing yards to set it for 509 passing yards. So shout out Kirko Chains, back to the Falcons, But yeah, man, NFL's been rocking and rolling. It's been fun to see. It's gonna be seen, as the season continues to progress. Who the real, contenders and pretenders throughout the season, and who really, could you really identify as, Super Bowl favorites? Kansas City trying to, as we said with the Aces, it's tough to repeat as, 3-time champs, and Kansas City's, seeing that, depleted, by injuries. Rasheed Rice, Hollywood Brown, Pacheco's out. Hollywood and Rasheed Rice are out for the season. Pacheco, I think, out 6 to 8 weeks. San Fran's kind of figuring it out without McCaffrey, who's still injured, and I think because of training, he re-aggravated the injury or something with tendonitis or knee tendonitis where, he's been hurt. He's going to be out for an additional, I heard it was like 4 to 6 weeks, so it's going to be interesting there in San Fran. But yeah, man, overall, the league, it's going to be interesting. The teams we expected to come out cooking have, obviously, as every NFL season, things happen. So it's been interesting to see. And then lastly, of course, we got to get into it. My Lakers are back. JJ is our head coach. He looked, I'll say offensively, I love the offensive movement, the ball movement off of the different actions. Kind of, it's a lot of handoffs. It's a lot of screens at the top of the key. It's going to be interesting to see where it's a lot of movement, where because during our first preseason game against the Timberwolves that we lost 124-107. Despite the loss, I saw, a lot of good positive things. Of course, my dog, my boy, he gonna break out this shit like I always say, man. I've been rooting for him to break out for the last couple of years. And I think now that he finally has a coach that believes in him, Max Christie's gonna have a breakout year. And it just pisses me off that Darvin Ham did not give him the tick to even like really grow like that, which is frustrating. But yeah, Max was hooping. We got Dalton Connect. That man got a flamethrower on him, man. And for him to be, for the pick we got him at, and to know, he's 23 and ready for the league, man. He ready. He got that flamethrower on him, and it's gonna be interesting to see, with AR how he steps up this season in JJ's offense, as well as, Rui, D'Lo. It's gonna be interesting, D'Lo. Depending on if we move D'Lo, depending on if we move Rui. So that's gonna be interesting. I love Rui and D'Lo too, but it's gonna be interesting to see what we kind of do throughout the season progresses as we continue to see. Obviously, all eyes on Bronny James. People going crazy for it because he only had 2 points, 1 of 6 from the field. But I think he does need to be, as much as he kind of settles for threes. I kind of want him to, kind of attack the basket more and see that more in his game too. But hey, one thing you can't doubt about Ronnie James, he is an NBA elite defender already. I would say he's 20 today because it was his birthday today, 19 or 20 today. He's already an elite defender at his age already. And he had 3 blocks again. He had 3 blocks in that first game, so it's gonna be interesting to see what we do tonight against the Suns. Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. I think they said AD and Bron are supposed to play one of these games on the weekend. Hopefully it's tonight. We'll see. I do kind of want to see how they flow within, JJ's offense, and a lot of, like I said, it's a lot of movement, a lot of cutting. And hey, LeBron and AD, they up there, so it's like, hey, do they want to do that, or they stick to their ways and allow the other guys to kind of move around, or where they're kind of the hubs. So it's gonna be interesting to see how this team kind of comes to fruition. And yeah, NBA's back. I'm excited for the league to be back. Of course, as we get closer and closer to opening day, get more into it. But yeah, basketball's back. We love it. And then, of course, gotta get y'all with the top 4. And my favorite album, see, this album that technically hasn't come out yet, and it's Broadway's Last Lap. It's supposed to come out this upcoming Friday, but those 2 songs he already dropped from that album that I'm already loving, Passport Junkies and Fall and Fast in Love. Oh my gosh, fire. So I already know I'm excited for this album already. Continue to, of course, listen to, my different mixes and just, finding different artists and different music that I connect with. But yeah, I'm excited for this Rod Wave album, Last Lap, dropping Friday at midnight. I'm excited. Yeah, very, very excited for that. Favorite show to watch currently, I told y'all about 10-Year-Old Tim. Then I found a show that was apparently predating 10-Year-Old Tim. It's called The Life and Time of, 10-Year-Old Tom. And I found another show, The Life and Times of Tim, which is like the same, I think it's the same voice actor and everything. And I'm telling you, I've been on this adult animation like wave of late, and that show is hilarious as well. It's got 3 seasons on HBO Max. I've been enjoying that. Obviously, my shows, now I'm annoyed by this, spoiler alert, by the bees thing that still is making this. Apparently, it's another cliffhanger that they left us with this week too. So I'm like, sheesh. And then continuing on this whole B storyline, and as well as, of course, as I told y'all, I'm really into this American sports story, Aaron Hernandez kind of, mini series, drama series that's been interesting to kind of get insight into the mind of, Aaron Hernandez at the time. Was he dramatized, and you can't really know, but it's been a fun watch. And then what do I currently have going on? I'll be headed out to Chi-Town for kind of, for work on something, we've been working on, for a while, and to have it finally arrive and now, kind of being in it and being there. It's gonna be fun. As I said, for me, I think like that concept of tone and how not only I carry myself out there, but also how I choose to engage with my work as well, and just I still love the city of Chicago. The last time I was there, it was my first time, but I instantly enjoyed the city, and yeah, excited to be back, and ready as always to get to work and make things happen, and obviously continue to always learn about myself, whenever I'm out of town and whenever um doing what I enjoy, and and just making things happen and creating experiences for people. What am I looking forward to? As I said, this trip coming up, looking forward to that and the lessons that come from that, and just the future trips to come. Figuring out a couple trips that I want to make happen. I want to go to more NBA games this season. 'Cause, we do have the Hornets. I want to go to more Hornets games. I want to just really overall just go to more sport events. Just in general. Like, I want to go check out Checkers games. Go. I don't know if Charlotte and the what's the soccer team or not the why did I just blank? Not the MLS team. Uh, but they have like an independent one. It's just a bunch of it's a bunch of different sports, but just go to like just different events that are outside my norm. Continue to see the growth in the gym that I've been putting in. Looking forward to that and putting that work in. Excited to have this week off, of course, from the gym, but just excited to continue to put in that work, and it's been fun. And as a the community at Chosen One Training is incredible, and just love it there. And connecting with people there, and my piece there at the gym. Yeah, just continuously looking forward to that, and as always, continuously looking to grow and get better, and be a better version of myself, and tapping into the things as I connect to. And yeah, as always, I appreciate y'all as always for listening. I always feel like I'm just rambling at times, but I always appreciate y'all for listening. And until next time, thank y'all for tuning in. Peace.